guys, Merry Christmas! In today's video I'll be showing you how I've cooked a trio of Christmas meats with some potatoes and vegetables. And welcome back to my channel. I'm Kelly Thompson and I'm a childcare and food entrepreneur. If you're new to my channel, thank you so much for tuning in. In my videos you'll find lots of relevant tips and topics on family and lifestyle and some fabulous recipes for the whole family. So please like and subscribe, and if you already subscribed to my channel, thank you. Without any further delays, let me show you how I've cooked all of these. So I have for you the duck, half of a leg of lamb and the turkey. So I'm just going to take the packaging off of the meat and wash it. Always remember to wash your meat first, and use some lime and flour or lime and vinegar, ideally lime and flour, so that's what I'll be using today. And then we'll get them into the bowl so we can marinate them. Okay, so we're just going to wash the lamb now. Now wash the lamb. Now it's time for the duck. I'll just do the duck off camera, but you do exactly the same. I want to show this to you guys. So, and this is another reason why it's really good to wash the meat, because inside this duck there is, you know, again another back of all the organs and things like that. So it's wrapped in a plastic. So if you literally just marinated this and stick it straight in the oven, obviously we'll have problems, won't we? So yes, it's really good to, you know, to wash the insides and check and make sure that there isn't anything hidden in there. We are going to start with the Caribbean green herbs, and I'm going to put one big tablespoonful of that. I'm going to put 1 teaspoon of all-purpose seasoning. So 1 teaspoon of all-purpose, 1 teaspoon of meat seasoning, and 1 teaspoon of lamb seasoning. I'm now going to add all my dry herbs, so parsley, some coriander, some basil leaves, a tablespoon of grated onions, some pepper, some salt, and a little dash of the garlic and coriander seasoning. This garlic and coriander seasoning is perfect if you've got someone who do not like the taste of the fresh coriander. You know, it really helps to disguise the taste. And it's the same when I use the dried coriander. You know, they just don't seem to be affected by it in terms of the taste. Right, so I've washed my hands. I do wash my hands a lot when I'm preparing food. I've got a real obsession with washing my hands. We're adding some onions. I'm going to get some onions off of here, some chopped onions. Just going to just sprinkle at the bottom. Some carrots. And we said this was going to help with the gravy. Some celery. And some spring onions. Because we're just going to leave some of this for the duck. I'm going to add a tiny dash of ketchup, like that. I'm now going to mix this in before I add the rest of the seasoning. Right, so I'm just going to mix this in. That's covered nicely with the spices, and it's likely you'll probably be doing a bigger lamb than this, so you can add a bit more of the spices. These are just going to stay at the bottom and cook nice and slow, and add lots of beautiful flavors. Right, time for some garlic. So we are going to put some holes in the lamb. This is only a small piece of lamb, so I'm only going to do 2 holes here. So there's one there. Make sure that goes quite a nice deep hole there, and one here. Okay, I'm going to cut this garlic in half. So there's 1 clove of garlic. I won't put the whole garlic in, so I'd leave about that bit, just a quarter of it out. I'll put that small piece in the other bit because you don't want it with a really strong garlic taste. But if you've got a bigger piece of lamb than this, then you might want to add the whole clove. For the gravy, I'm going to cut this clove of garlic in half because it's only a small piece of the lamb, and I'm going to just crush it. Okay, I'm just going to stick that in there. So we're almost there. I'll just stick that on top. I'm now going to add some goose fat. Now, goose fat is so good for cooking your veg and cooking your potatoes. It adds such a lovely taste to your food, and it's better than using the butter, in my opinion. So I'm just going to spread this across on top of the lamb. So that was like a really big teaspoon. I've just spread all over the top of it like that, and it will give the sauce a really rich taste. So time to marinate the duck. The thing is with duck, it's a really tasty meat. It's a bit like goose, and it's a very rich meat, but I don't like this bit here. I think this bit is the bum. I always try and cut it off. I do the same with chicken as well. Right, so I'm just going to wash my hands again. And a tablespoon of grated onions. What I did here, I basically grated 1 massive onion in this bowl, and then that's what I used to marinate all 3 meats. So all of this on my board here is going in the duck. Just remember, the more of these things you add, obviously not too much, the tastier your food will be. Right, I'm going to grate some nutmeg, not a lot, about that amount, and pepper, and salt, teaspoon of chicken seasoning and a teaspoon of all-purpose seasoning. Now a teaspoon of my garlic and coriander seasoning. I'm going to sprinkle some sage on top. Some parsley. And some rosemary. I'm also going to put some fennel seeds. Okay, I'm just going to peel this orange so that I can add it to the duck. I'm going to add some apple as well. So we'll put just a small piece inside the duck. I'm going to cut this bit up inside for the gravy. And now some dried apricots. I'm just going to cut this up on the outside. And this is for the gravy. So look, you see we've got the neck there. That will give it such a beautiful taste. Right, I'm going to wash my hands and mix this up. Right, let's mix this up. Now what you'll get from this duck is a lot of fat and a lot of oil coming out, so you don't need to add any goose fat or anything like that. In fact, the oil that you get from this, if you're able to drain it properly, you can use it to cook your potatoes. It will be so tasty, honestly, so delicious. It's very rare do I cook my potatoes, my roast potatoes, with, you know, the normal oil or even coconut oil. I don't really use, I use goose fat or duck fat to cook my potatoes. Tastes absolutely gorgeous. Right, so I think this is ready. So we'll cover this with some foil and stick this in the oven. I'm just going to put that sage on top and stick one inside. Okay. And if you look inside, you can see we don't have any sauce or gravy at the bottom, but believe me, when it's done, you'll have a lot of gravy and sauce to play with, providing that you cover it properly with the foil. That's the duck and the lamb. The duck is at the top and the lamb is at the bottom. So I've peeled the potatoes, I've washed them, and I'm now going to put them to boil. Add some salt. So just a sprinkle of salt, not too much. Okay, that's on, and then I'm going to add some hot water, boiling water, straight from the kettle. So that's going to cover the potatoes. Okay. There we are. So I'm going to leave this to boil for about sort of 5 minutes. You don't want it to boil completely and you don't want it to overcook. You just want to soften it a bit, because once you've put it in the oven, it will cook very quickly, and if it's too soft, it will fall apart. So yeah, only maybe about 5 minutes. And don't have it too high. I'm going to turn it down to number 7. 10 is the highest. So that should be the right amount of heat to get it boiling. So the first thing I'm going to do is put some bacon in the frying pan. I'm not putting any oil because the bacon has a lot of fat, so it will create its own oil. And I'm just going to keep this on a slow heat to cook. And eventually I kind of want it to be a bit crispy. But I could have put this in the oven, but it's currently full with the duck and the lamb. So I've decided to do this on the cooker. We'll let this fry until it's golden brown and nice and crispy. That's our potato here, guys. It's been cooking now for about 10 minutes and I'm now going to drain it. So I've drained all the water out of it. I'm leaving it here to stand for a few minutes before I start adding all the other ingredients to then put it in the oven. So that's getting nice and crispy now. So I'm going to do a really quick cabbage and Brussels sprouts vegetable with bacon to complement the meal. The first thing I'm going to do is chop this up into small pieces. I've washed these sprouts, so I'm now going to chop them up finely. Now when I cut my sprouts, I do sometimes cut them whole or in halves, like, you know, cut it in halves like that. But my preference is to cut it into really thin pieces. So this is chopped now. I just need to get some onions. So I've got some onions that I grated earlier, which I'm going to use in this. Right, so I'm just going to chop up the bacon into little pieces. So the first thing I'm going to do is add some goose fat. And honestly, your veg will taste delicious if you cook it in goose fat or duck fat. So I've just added 2 tablespoons. And I'm now going to add some grated onions. And I've also got 2 cloves of garlic in here. I've chopped them up into small pieces. I could smell that goose fat. It's really nice. Let me turn this down, it's a bit high. Temporarily turn it down to number 6. So we'll just allow this to fry for a bit. So now it's time to add the cabbage and the sprouts that I chopped up earlier. I'll turn the temperature back up to number 7. And smell the garlic now, it smells really lovely. It's time to add some dry herbs, so some basil. Some rosemary. And some parsley. I'm going to add a sprinkle of the sage. Give that a stir. Now it's time for some vegetable seasoning to stop it from tasting boring. So just a small teaspoon, you don't need loads. In fact, that was half of a teaspoon. It wasn't a full teaspoon. I'm just going to turn this down now. Turn it down to number 5 so it can simmer without burning. It's just a lot better, you know, than just boiling it with a bit of salt and pepper. So it's time to add some salt and pepper. So not too much. That's the pepper. And then a tiny bit of salt, not a lot because we're going to put some bacon in it. A tiny bit. So I'm just going to add the bacon now. And you can put as much bacon as you like. I mean, I think I only put 2 rushes of bacon in here. So you easily could have put 3. I'm just going to let this simmer for an additional 5 minutes, and then I'm going to turn the cooker down. I'm just going to turn it down to 1 so it can stay warm. So I'm going to get the potatoes ready to bake in the oven using goose fat. And I'm going to put about 3 tablespoons of the goose fat. And that's only for the amount of potatoes that I've got. Obviously, if you've got a lot more than I have, you'll probably need more. So I'm going to grate a small bit of nutmeg in there. If you have fresh sage, then you can use that. If not, dry sage is good as well, because you do get a taste from it. It's, you know, it can be quite strong. The other thing I'm going to add is roast potato seasoning, and this contains lots of the things that I would normally put in here individually. So it's got salt, onions, pepper, rosemary, white pepper, thyme. There's a lot of really good stuff in there. So I'll just make sure I mix that up nicely. And I sprinkle 1 teaspoon of the roast potato seasoning. I am going to add a bit more of this, but just a bit later on. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to stick this in the oven just to allow the goose fat to melt a bit more, and then we'll add the potatoes in. So the goose fat only needs to be in the oven for an extra sort of couple of minutes to melt. So I've taken all the meats out of the oven, and they've been in the oven for 1 hour and 40 minutes. The lamb is completed, so after the hour and 40 minutes it's finished. So I don't need to put that back in. And here you can see we've got, you know, a bit of substance there to make our gravy. It's going to cover the lamb. So that can wait until we're finished with the other meat. To cover it so it doesn't dry out, so it just stays nice and succulent. So it's best to leave it like that. Now onto the duck. So as you can see, the duck is cooked. It's nice and soft, but we need it a bit more crispy. There's a lot of liquid here, and I tasted it earlier, and the one thing it needed was a bit more salt. And I always prefer to put less salt at the start and then wait until the end and add more if I need to. So in this case, we're just going to add a bit more salt on top. And I guess when I do the gravy, we can have some salt there as well. So just sprinkle it with salt, not too much. So I'm now going to stick this in the oven so we can make it a bit more crispy. So I reckon we'll probably need at least another 10 minutes on 200 degrees Celsius. So here we have our goose fat with the marinade, the spices that we've put in it. So I've taken it out of the oven, it's melted nicely. And I'm now going to put the potatoes in. All my potatoes in. So these are the potatoes that we boiled earlier. So I'm just going to add half of a teaspoon of the roast potato seasoning. I'm just going to sprinkle that on top. So now I'm going to put this in the oven to bake for half an hour on 200 degrees Celsius. After half an hour it should go brown. If it's not brown enough you can leave it a bit longer, but I'll check it after half an hour and we'll see where we are with it. Ooh la la, look at that duck. Nice and brown and crispy. That looks good. So I'm going to cover this as well, allow it to stand, and we'll just wait for our potatoes to finish and we'll start dishing up. Right, so we're just going to make some gravy. I'm going to add some oil from the duck. And I'm now going to add some chopped onions. And I'm just going to allow that to simmer. Now I'm going to put the neck from the duck in the gravy. So we'll put that in there. And I'm also going to scoop out all those carrots and apricots that we've put in the turkey and the duck. We're going to use that now in our gravy. But do remember to leave a small amount of the sauce in the dish so that the meat doesn't dry out. I'm now going to add some flour to the gravy, and this is to thicken it. So that's 2.5 tablespoons. So I'm just going to mix this in. I'm going to add some hot water. So you can see that's looking nice and thick in there. This is so much better than using Bisto gravy. These gravy granules. Just going to add some more water. So I've added some more water because we don't want it super thick, and we do like a lot of gravy in our food, so I want to make sure that we've got enough. So I'm just going to taste it now for flavouring, and then we're going to drop a small amount of red wine. So I'm just going to taste it now for flavouring. Look at these guys, our potatoes are finished. They're golden, they look crispy. I cannot wait to tuck into these. Right, get stuck in, guys.
Okay, I'm doing a lot.
I'll bring the gravy over.
I'll serve some up for me, Dad, yeah?
You're filming me this whole time. I can't do. Gravy. Is this mushroom gravy? Onion mushroom stuff?
No, this is gravy using the stock from the
not yet.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm gonna start more.
How's that for you, Kels?
The potatoes are really good.
What's
really
this?
nice.
Lamb.
Really nice.
That's the
This
duck.
is lamb?
That's the duck.
Duck, sorry, duck.
Beautiful lamb.
Sisters.
Duck.
Absolute mess. The meat
Because
is
Guys,
the meat is
you've got,
really
it's got to be
tasty.
shredded
Yeah.
anyway.
Oh, and
Gonna be
also
shredded.
guys, before you get keep watching us eat, make sure to subscribe to our channel if you haven't done already. Head over to the Kelly Sisters channel. It will be right here. Make sure to subscribe and check out our videos, guys. Yeah. This looks fantastic. It's ready to done into these potatoes.
so I think they're really enjoying their pre-Christmas dinner. Is it good, guys?
Yeah, very good.
Yeah, lovely. So that's it for today, guys. I hope you've enjoyed watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe and follow me on my other socials. And please check out my other videos on food, family and lifestyle. Thank you for watching. See you next time. Bye.